Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take us on a journey. The journey is back in time, 52 days. You see, we started on Elul, the beginning of the month of Elul, 52 days ago. And we had an amazing journey. And the journey that we went on started in Elul, which was a time of preparation for Rosh Hashanah. And if the rabbis tell us that if we want to gain inspiration from events, we have to concretize those events. And so what I'd like to do is walk through this amazing journey of 52 days from the first of Elul to Simchas Torah, which was 2 days ago, so that we can see its highlights and hopefully have some takeaways to live our lives differently this coming year. So as we start, let's talk now about Elul. What the rabbis say, and my Rosh Hashiva Rabbi Weinberg said on Elul, the acronym for Elul, Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed, is Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. It's a love story. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. And that's the preparation, the 30-day preparation for Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment, Rosh Hashanah. It's an extraordinary idea. So how would Rabbi Weinberg, the dean of Eish HaTorah, explain this? He would ask a question. And the question was, shouldn't it be reverse? Not I am for my beloved. We are for my beloved, and my beloved is for me, the Almighty. I am for my beloved, I am for the Almighty, and the Almighty is for me. See, he would explain that in the desert back when the Almighty took us out of Egypt, it should have been the reverse. The Almighty started this love affair. The Almighty showed us His kindness. He saved us. He brought us out of Egypt. So my beloved is for me, and I am for my beloved. That's what the expression should be. My beloved is for me, and I am for my beloved. And Rabbi Weinberg would say, no, that's not what it is. And he gives an example of this from a story, a true story of a rabbi who was in New York back in the 80s. And the subways were rough, and the people were rough. And if you remember, in the 80s, they had these giant boom boxes, loud music machines, stereos, the bigger, the better. So it happened, a couple of rough guys came on a subway car with a boom box. And this rabbi was sitting in a car, minding his own business. And an old lady starts to scream at these big guys with this boombox. Shut the music, you guys are crazy, and she goes on and on. These guys get really upset with her. And one guy goes over to her and she says, ma'am, I like this music. If you don't like this music, turn it off. And in an instant, the woman turned it off. So you can imagine what was going on. This guy got very, very aggravated. And he gets over to the woman, and he's about to hit the woman. And this rabbi says, I got to get up. And he puts his hand in front of the guy and says, don't hit the woman. And this big guy says, what do you want? Do you want to fight? He says, no, I don't want to fight. What do you want? Don't hit the woman. What are you making of this? And it goes back and forth. And finally, they desist. The woman gets scared. She scampers off to a side of the car. And it seems like nothing's going to happen. Except the music goes on again. The woman comes over again. And the same exact incident ensued. Luckily, our hero was able to again stop the altercation. These fellas got off at the next stop. And nothing else happened. And this guy was sitting, this young rabbi, was sitting now in his seat in the subway car. And he's saying, I can't believe it. I saved this woman's life, and she didn't thank me. And then I realized, wait a minute, the Almighty saved my life, and I didn't thank the Almighty. And our young rabbi hero was telling this story over to Rabbi Weinberg after it happened. And Rabbi Weinberg said, that's a great lesson. But you missed an even bigger lesson. And the fellow said, what lesson did I miss? And the Rosh Hashiva said, who do you think sent those hoodlums into that subway car? It's the same Almighty. So the Rosh Yeshiva would say, Almighty is not Superman. He doesn't just come in and save. He also creates those situations. So what's the message? What's the lesson? The Almighty creates situations because He wants us to grow. He wants us to become bigger people. And He wants to bring out a potential in us. And so sometimes uncomfortable, difficult situations, when we start to see things through the lens of the Almighty, we can understand that they're coming for us for love and for our purpose and our affection. Rabbi Weinberg would say, getting back to our story, why therefore don't we always see things like this in a positive way? And he would say, we have resentments. We think life should be different. We think life should be better. Why me? Why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to go through that? And Rabbi Weinberg would explain, you see, life is not a spa. A spa means you're comfortable. No pain, no gain. He says, really, life is a gym. We're here to grow. And the only way that you can grow is with resistance. But no one goes into a gym and resents the weights because they realize that the weights give them the resistance that allow them to grow. So too life. The Almighty wants us to grow, wants us to fulfill our potential. And therefore, He's giving all the time to us. Now, let's reel it back. I always say, it might be sometimes difficult to see those hoodlums in the car as the loving hand of the Almighty. But why don't we first start with seeing all the wonderful things that the Almighty does for us? See all the good things that the Almighty does for us. See all the good things in our lives. It's called gratitude, Hakaras HaTov. We have to work, and we did work on this for 30 days in Elul on gratitude. Because if we see life for what it is, life's gorgeous. Rabbi Weinberg would say life is gorgeous. We just have to pay attention to it. We have to be aware of it. And if we have gratitude, we will see how much we have in life. The Balei Musar, they're called, people who work on spiritual growth and character refinement, say that our character traits don't split. What that means is that, for instance, if you're a grateful person and you're grateful to everything and everyone in your life, you'll also be grateful to the Almighty. So they say that the prescription for seeing how much the Almighty does for us is to be grateful for every single thing and every single person in your life. And therefore, what we do in Elul and what we did at Elul is we work on gratitude. We work on appreciating all the people and all the things in our lives, and that brings us to a great appreciation of the Almighty. So getting back to our answer, the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Weinberg, would say, it really is, if I take the first step, Ani L'Dodi, and I see how wonderful the Almighty has been to me, I will start seeing all the things He does for me, in all its stripes and all its colors. And I'll be able to recognize the goodness that He's constantly doing for me. And that is the prelude to the Day of Judgment, which is a mind-blowing idea. This love story between us, the Jewish people, and the Almighty is the prelude for the Day of Judgment. It gets even more incredible because, as you know, our Day of Judgment is very odd in some ways. It really is a day that you judge for a capital offense. You could live, you could die. You could have blessing, you could have curses. All kinds of things are in front of you on the Day of Judgment. So one would think that you would be very serious for the 30 days. You would look very hard into your actions. In fact, the last day perhaps you'd fast. You would think about all the things you did wrong. You'd look back and you do what the books say is repentance, tshuva. In fact, perhaps you'd have Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, before Rosh Hashanah. Because, of course, if you're really serious about overcoming a judgment for life and death, you would think perhaps it's about my actions, to be penitent, to review my actions, to fast, to be serious, perhaps even solemn. But what do? We party. We wear our finest clothing. We go out and we party and we eat and we drink. And we don't seem to take the judgment so seriously. So what's going on? What's going on? Because we know it's the Day of Judgment. So if you recall, back in Rosh Hashanah, the first Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the month of Tishrei, is actually the anniversary of the birth of Adam Harishon, the first man. The Almighty, as it were, creates life. And it's a propitious day because the spiritual energy that recycles to us every Rosh Hashanah is a very simple question. The Almighty says to himself, as it were, is it worth renewing your contract? And recognize the Almighty created Adam purely to fulfill his potential. Adam didn't deserve to be created. He didn't do anything to be created. He didn't merit anything that he was given. He was given a tremendous opportunity to fulfill a potential. So the Almighty, as it were, every anniversary of Adam's birth is saying to himself, Adam, is it worth creating you again? Is it worth upping your contract? Right? Imagine Joe Judd, coach of the Giants, doesn't go 0-5, which he is now, but goes 0-16. He has a total losing record and he has a 1-year contract. 30 days before the renewal of the contract next year, he's going to see Mara, the owner of the team, and Tish, and he's begging, he's pleading. He's saying, guys, I'm the same guy that you had a shared vision with. I'm that guy who can get you to a Super Bowl. And here's why. And he starts showing him and trying to convince him that this is the person I am. And this is the potential that we have. And this is our collective vision. And that's what we bring every year as it were to Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah is not going back and saying, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong during the year and feeling bad about it? No. It's where do I want to go this year? Who do I want to be this year? And to the extent that we show up and we want true life this coming Rosh Hashanah, which is just past, the Almighty gives it to us. It's a day not for us to look at our actions and do repentance, which we eventually do. It's a day for us to look at our insides. What are our goals? What's our ratzon? What's our desires? And where are we going in life? It's a big picture understanding of the world. And we say to ourselves, this is who I want to be. And this is what I want out of life. And it converges on a theme called Melech, kingship, because we recognize that the Almighty is all that we want. It's all that we can want. And we throw our ambitions to the Almighty's agenda. And we say, Almighty, I know how much you've given me. I want to fulfill your objectives for the world. And I want to live it in accordance with your mandates for the world. And that's my big picture, and that's my direction. Please give me blessing this year to fulfill my potential. And that's how we come out of Rosh Hashanah, confident that the Almighty will deliver, confident that the Almighty will give us a year of blessing to fulfill our lofty ambitions. And why do we know that we'll be victorious in this judgment? We know we'll be victorious in this judgment because it's our Father, the King. Our Father is the King. And we all know, as parents, your kid could be doing everything wrong. But if he moves just a little bit in the direction you want him to go in, you'll give him anything to continue that forward progress. And that is the Almighty. The Almighty is our Father who wants us to succeed in life and wants us to have simply everything. And that's how we leave Rosh Hashanah. But then what do we have to do to continue along and to try to fulfill our potential and our ambitions? You see, we have to clean up the mess we made. So in other words, we did those things that last year to relationships we had, to people in our lives, and to the Almighty that brought us further away from them. We've now determined we went in the wrong direction, and we want to make good, and we want to sincerely become better and sincerely live in accordance with our objectives and potential. So we have to sincerely now go back and examine our actions and repair some of the relationships that perhaps we've damaged, and ask the Almighty to forgive us when we moved away from Him in the prior year. Why? Because we sincerely want to go forward. So we have to clean up the mess, and that cleaning and cleansing that we do after we decide where we're going in life is the 10 days prior to Yom Kippur. And in Yom Kippur, we continue to have an extraordinary opportunity with the Almighty. Because what happened on Yom Kippur? Salakti Kidvarecha, we were entirely cleansed and forgiven from those things which we did. You know, when I first showed up in yeshiva back almost 30 years ago, I remember one of the younger rabbis saying Yom Kippur is the best day of the year. And growing up as a Reformed Jew on Long Island, that wasn't my perspective. In fact, when people ask me now as a banker and they say, which holiday is that? Is that the sad one or is that the happy one? And the sad one, they're always talking about Yom Kippur. And certainly that was my perspective. Well, this young rabbi's perspective was quite the opposite. He said, when will you ever have an opportunity to be fully, totally cleansed, clean, as if nothing happened in your life that was wrong? Totally cleansed, perfect relationships. It's unbelievable. It doesn't happen. The Almighty allows us to repair all the breaches between He and us. And that's extraordinary because we all know when we have issues with people in our lives, we can make up, we can talk it out, we can get people to forgive us, but they never really lose that experience. With the Almighty, it's wiped totally clean. Etch-a-sketch, it goes all away as if it never, ever existed. And that's how we come out of Yom Kippur. So imagine the closest now. We have spent 30 days in the month of Elul, really having gratitude for all the wonderful things we have in our life and ascribing those things to the ultimate giver of what we have, the Almighty. And then we set our head straight and we realize that it's all about Him and His agenda, and we want to tap into our potential and we want to become big people and live in accordance with our promise, in accordance with our potential. And then the Almighty gives us, as it were, wind in our sails to actually move us toward who we want to be. Start forward progress and cleaning up the things that we do wrong, and more importantly, getting resolve and an initiative for the future. And before He lets us go on our own, He gives us training wheels. He gives us a set of training wheels. So what are those training wheels called? The training wheels that He gives us is called Sukkot. He says to us, you know what I want you to do? I want you to go into a hut. I want you to go out of your permanent home, and I want you to go into a hut for 7 days. 7 days. Now, several lessons we learn from this holiday. First one, it's called the holiday of Sukkot, Zman Simchasenu. This is the time of our happiness. So the essence of what it means to be happy comes out of this festival. That's the first thing I want to talk about on Sukkot. Happiness. So why is that the case? So it's the time of the ingathering. It's the time when we as Jews in an agricultural society had all the fruits and the vegetables and we felt full. We were all full. And so the first thing we have to know when we have things in life, when we have bounty in life, we have to realize who allowed us to have it. You have to appreciate that we get blessed in life. You know, you can have so much, but if you don't appreciate what you have, if you don't appreciate all the good that you have, you won't even realize you have good. And we all know this. We all know this in the secular world, in our world. If you don't appreciate what you have, things don't give you happiness. If you appreciate what you have, then only those things which you have can make you extraordinarily happy. So in the time when we have tremendous bounty, we have tremendous good in our lives, we're meant to learn the lesson that we have to appreciate all that we have to really be happy. And we have to ascribe those things that we have to the giver, which is the Almighty. That's the first lesson of happiness in Sukkot. And they say a beautiful understanding when Leah, one of the matriarchs, had her fourth son, Yehuda. Fourth son, Yehuda. She called him Yehuda, which means from Modeh, I admit. What did she admit? So it comes out with a question. There's a story about that sentence in Torah that says Leah was the first one to praise and thank the Almighty, to give Hodah. And they ask, how could that be? Adam or Rishon, who we talked about, praised the Almighty. Abraham praised the Almighty. How could Leah be the first to praise the Almighty? And the insight they say is as follows. As I mentioned, Leah had 4 sons. She was one of 4 matriarchs. There were supposed to be 12 sons, 3 sons per matriarch. When she realized she received more than her lot, more than she merited, when she got more than she merited in life, she called Yehuda, the name Yehuda, from I admit. And forevermore, what it's showing us, and Yehuda comes Yehudim, Jews, because Jews realize that all they get in life is a gift. She recognized that all things that I have, every appreciation I have, is fundamentally based on the notion that I don't merit anything. My existence, everything I have, is one unending gift from the Almighty. And that's the next level of Simcha, where we recognize that it's not just I appreciate everything I have, but I realize in every pore of my body that everything I have is a gift. You imagine living a life where everything you get is a gift. You don't take anything for granted. You're constantly appreciative of everything you have. It's an extraordinary existence, and we hope to build that understanding of our wealth on Sukkot, because we understand the giver didn't have to give us anything. And thank God we have so much in life. But it doesn't end there. As I said, the motif of the Sukkah teaches us 2 fantastic lessons, among 2 fantastic lessons. There's many amazing things that the motif of the Sukkah teaches us. But one thing it does is it takes us out of our world inside, and it brings us into a hut for 7 days. And the rabbis say that everything we do, eating, drinking, sleeping, is a mitzvah when you're in the sukkah. So what I meant before is, during the year, the proper relationship to using the physical world is something like this. We're supposed to use the physical world for its spiritual benefit. So a pithy way to say it is, you don't live to eat, you eat to live. So therefore, our approach to using the physical world is to get pleasure from the physical world, but such that we can do that which is important, spirituality. So we use the physical world to focus ourselves on our spiritual objectives. We eat to get energy to fulfill. We make meals so that we can have people into our home, to give, to converse with ideas, to talk about wisdom. For us, the physical world is a means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself. And that's how we're supposed to pursue life. The training wheels of the sukkah is fantastic in that it's saying to us, I'm going to give you a freebie. All those things that you can do using the physical world during the holiday of Sukkot in the sukkah, you get an automatic mitzvah. But it's trying to train all of us that our purpose in life is to fulfill Torah and mitzvahs. We're trying to be spiritual people. When we leave the sukkah after 7 days, the way we do that is through our intention. When we have intention, when we're eating, when we're drinking, that we're fulfilling our pursuits and our directions in life, that's when we get the spiritual benefit. So it's a training ground for us to focus us that when we're going back into the world and we're now going to reintegrate, we've been on such a spiritual high. We've been thinking and acting in relationship with the Almighty for 52 days. And all of a sudden we hit the ground and we go to work on Monday and we put on our pants and we put on our dresses and we do all kinds of things in the world the same way we do it all the time. But wait a minute, where's our spirituality? So the 7 days in the sukkah is focusing us on our direction. It's focusing us on our purpose. That's what life's about. that's where we're going. Yes, we're using the physical world. We have to make money during the week. We have to do all kinds of things in this world. The Almighty gave us a body to use this world, but use it properly. That's the first great lesson that I'd like to share with Sukkot. The second lesson I'd like to share is as follows. We go from what's called a house of a permanent dwelling, and we go into a temporary dwelling. That's what it's called on Sukkot. We go to a temporary dwelling. And the rabbis teach us in that temporary dwelling idea that that's how we're supposed to understand our perspective in life. Meaning to say, we don't get our sense of our self and security and satisfaction from the houses we build and the things we rely on, but rather we go into a hut and we rely on the protection of the Almighty, because we ultimately realize that that is what is behind our success in life. The Almighty is what is behind our blessings in life. The Almighty is what helps us achieve in life, and the Almighty is who gives us security and sense of well-being in life. It's an extraordinary concept, and in fact, a great rabbi in Brooklyn, he passed away, I want to say 10 years ago, perhaps more, Rabbi Miller. Rabbi Miller used to say, you know what the real wealth is? The real wealth is not our possessions. Real wealth is faith in the Almighty. When someone really has faith in the Almighty and really understands that everything the Almighty gives is for the good, He's constantly giving, He's constantly in control of things, He can allow you to prevail under any circumstances, and all that He does for you is good, that person is truly wealthy. And that really is the height of Zman Simchasenu. When we go through a 52-day cycle and arrive at the end of Sukkot, after we've gotten our perspective clear and we've been working on this relationship with the Almighty, and we recognize that we can bring it all together and integrate ourselves when the holiday of Sukkot, when we merge and understand how to use the physical world that we have to meet spiritual objectives, and we recognize, more importantly, where our security in life comes from, we've reached the pinnacle, we've reached the height of our capacity to not only have a great relationship with the Almighty, but living in this world to have a relationship with the Almighty. Not so simple to do, right? So we've come a long, long way. The end of Sukkot is a very, very interesting holiday called Shmini Atzeret. It's an ingathering. It's a day the Almighty says, as it were, I'm going to leave you. I just want one more day just with you. And that's the 8th day, called Shmini Atzeret. Shmini Atzeret and a holiday called Simchat Torah, where we dance and we sing around the Torah, is how this whole series of 51 days, 52 in America, ends. So how is that the case, that this holiday of us and the Almighty and this focus on the Torah is really the proper ending for this love affair that we have with the Almighty, reaching a pinnacle on Sukkot where we can merge our capacity to use this world and our focus for the future? How do we then understand Torah connected to that? And I'll say it's very simple. As I said, we're about having a relationship with the Almighty, and everything we do in Judaism is about that. The mitzvot, the commandments, it's all about channeling our connection to the Almighty, having connections during the day to build a relationship with the Almighty. There's 3 ways that you build a relationship with the Almighty. 1, you talk to Him, you pray, you talk, you have a relationship, prayer, number 1. Number 2, you emulate the Almighty, you like the Almighty, you're a giver, you're a lover, you do things in the world to emulate the attributes of the Almighty. And I tell this story, it's a very fond of this story, because it brings me back to my childhood when I would go to work with my father. And I remember distinctly, my father was a sweater manufacturer, and he went to various mills in Brooklyn. And he would tell us during the years, I go to Angelo at 7, and I go to Fernando at 8, and I buy a cup of coffee here, and I do all that. It wasn't until I went with my father to work one morning, and I saw Angelo's dyeing mill, and I went to the kneading mill of Ferdinand, etc. And I went to the deli, and I got the cup of coffee with him, that I really understood him much better. I understood where he was coming from. So you got to live through it. You got to emulate it. If you are trying to be like the Almighty, who is a giver par excellence, you come to know the Almighty on a higher level. And the last and perhaps most important way to understand the Almighty is through learning His Torah. Through learning His wisdom, it allows you to know yourself and how you as a person are going to ultimately find your potential in life. How are you going to fill the objectives that the Almighty has for you? So very much through learning the Almighty's wisdom, as it were, speaking His language, coming in contact with His wisdom, is the third and perhaps greatest way to develop a relationship with the Almighty. And to see we've come full circle. I want to now, if I might, kind of go back, and I want to talk about perhaps takeaways that we can use to help us concretize the growth that we've had over the last almost 2 months. So I want to suggest the first thing, and perhaps maybe the most important thing we could ever do as human beings and as Jews trying to reach our Creator, is work on gratitude. Work on really becoming people who appreciate every single thing in our lives. You know, when the rabbis give us in prayers, right in the beginning of prayers, the morning blessings are things that are meant for us to meditate on day to day so that we don't lose track of how wonderful the world is for us and how much we have. And as I said, not only must we focus on those prayers and say them slow and really go through our day, and the more time we spend on appreciating those things that we have and bringing it to our awareness, the more pleasure we're going to have from it, and the more reality we're going to have in our lives, because life is gorgeous. We just have to focus on it. Life is gorgeous, my Rosh Hashiva said. We just have to focus on it. And he said, being happy, which is focusing on what you have, is hard work. You can be miserable. It's far easier. But we want to focus on what we have. We want to focus on the pleasures of life and what we have. And as I said, that understanding of lay is so beautiful. If we live a life that everything we get we're not supposed to get it. Everything we get, we wake up every morning. My grandmother, Ova Shalom, used to say, thank God. Every morning, we ask, how you doing, Grandma Regina? Thank God. Thank God I got up. And as you get a bit older, you realize that's it. You have a winning day. You've gotten up, and you have so much potential, and you have so many blessings in your life. So we have to focus on that. First and most important idea is we have to be thankful for every single thing in our lives and every single person in our lives. We have to thank the waiters and the doormen and the people that do things for us. That builds in us a muscle of appreciation. And ultimately, that's the muscle that we have, not just for appreciating that waiter, but for also appreciating the Almighty. And most importantly, getting great satisfaction and happiness in life. First key takeaway. Number one. Number two takeaway is, as I mentioned, Rosh Hashanah is about getting our heads square. Where are we going in life? What do we want out of life? What are our goals? What are our ambitions? Am I living in accordance with what I should be living with? So I'll suggest to us, that is the mechanism that Rosh Hashanah forces us toward. And if you're like me, I kind of get a little bit of a picture, but I don't really have it crystal clear. So I'm suggesting for people like me, and perhaps even people who do have it clear, make a business plan. What do I mean by that? I'm a banker. And I know that those companies that have a plan, they have a projection, they have a vision of where they're going and how they're getting there. They're the ones that get closer to what they want to be. They're the ones that come closer to their objectives. So you want to have a plan. You want to have goals. You want to understand where you're going. So I urge you, as I urge myself, finish concretizing your business plan. What do I want to be? Where I'm going? What are my key objectives? What are my key goals? What are my key strategies? Doesn't have to be complex. It could be 3 goals. It could be 5 goals. It could be 1 goal. It could be 1 or 2 strategies to achieve your goals. It just should be meaningful to you, and it should be in line with your vision of what the Almighty wants from you and what your purpose is in this world. Business plan. The third thing that I urge myself, because it's very hard for me to do, is understand that we ultimately want to get there, and ultimately our actions are important. Just because I said Rosh Hashanah is about the big picture, it's not about atonement, it's not about tshuva, but those things do matter. Those things are important. We do want our actions to be in line with our perspectives in life and where we're going, what we want to be. We want to be the people of our dreams. We want to be the people that fulfill our potential. So therefore, checking in with your plan is important. Checking in with how you're doing is very important. I also say in business that if a company doesn't look at their business plan at least once a month, how did I do relative to my plan? How did I do relative to my goals? What were the obstacles? Where did I go wrong? Where did I go right? What should I increase? What should I look out for? What midterm corrections do I have to make? It's very important because it's a live plan, number one. It's a live plan, and life is challenging. So you want to check in on that plan. There's been times that I've made plans and not checked in. It's crazy, right? Try to make a plan and try to check into it at least once a month. And don't forget, you're not just checking in to what you're doing vis-a-vis the Almighty and His objectives and your mission statement. But you know what you're also doing? You're checking in to see, how did I do with my relationships? How did I do with the people in my life? Do I have anything to repair? Do I have anyone to say I'm sorry to? Do I have anyone to work harder on relationship, on my objectives, on my goals? Because you see, that's very important. When we come to Yom Kippur, as you might have remembered, we can't get forgiveness from people without going over to them. And you don't want to wait a whole year to work out your relationships, to work out the people in your life. So I would suggest that a good time, at least a minimum, once a month, to look back at the people in your lives and the relationships you have. Try to get those right as well and make mid-course corrections on those. That's the third point. And the last point I want to say is, as I mentioned at the end, the holiday of Sukkot, and really where our wealth comes from, our sense of well-being, our sense of fulfillment, our sense of completeness, it comes from us really realizing that the Almighty is our Father in heaven who's going to take care of us in all ways, in all situations, always comes for our good, has our back. It's a tremendous feeling of completeness and satisfaction and well-being. So how do we get that? We want to work on what Rabbi Miller says is our wealth. Our wealth is bitachon, trust in the Almighty. So how do we work on it day to day? I'll submit to you that perhaps there's 2 key ways that you can work on it every single day. And however you pray, whether you pray in an organized fashion with a minyan, whether you pray in your home, whether you say the Shema, whether you just say blessings, whether you say anything you say that's prayer in a day, you're talking to the Almighty. And I would suggest to you that what we want to do is we want to ask the Almighty for things. We want to be real with the reality that the Almighty is in control of all things in our lives. We want to go somewhere, the Almighty sends us in that direction. We want to have success. We put effort to a certain conclusion. The Almighty delivers for us. We want to be real with that notion. And the way, from my perspective, that you're real with that notion is you ask. And you simply ask for everything. Almighty, please help me get through this difficult situation of work. Almighty, help me have words when I go on that sales call. Almighty, please take care of my children so they're not sick. Almighty, please make me get to my destination. I'll be late for a meeting. You name it. You name it, because that's living in reality. The Almighty is in charge and in control of all the things in our lives. So ask, 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 ask. First thing. And the second thing I think is equally important, as you accomplish in life, thank. When you have that business deal and you come up with that great idea on the phone, thank you, Almighty. Thank you, Almighty. Thank you, Almighty. Thank you, Almighty. Work it in your bones that it's not you. You put effort. You put a lot of effort. And you're meant to put effort. The Almighty wants you to put out effort. But not to think that you are the one that gets things accomplished. The Almighty gets things accomplished. So not only do you need to ask, but you need to thank. Thank you, Almighty, for giving me that idea. Thank you, Almighty, for giving me the words to say in that business call. Thank you, Almighty, for making things go easy with my son in that exam. Thank. So with those 4 takeaways, number 1, have gratitude. So simply everything and everyone in your life. Number 2, make a business plan. Whatever works for you, concretize your goals, where you're going, what you want to be this coming year. Major objectives, perhaps some strategies. Thirdly, check in with those goals at least once a month. And not only check in to see, is your course correct? Are you getting toward your objectives in life vis-a-vis you and the Almighty and His mission for the world? But also, how are your relationships? How are your relationships with your family, with your spouses, with your friends, with your coworkers, and with the Almighty? And lastly, ask, and thank. And with those 4 takeaways, God willing, we'll have a very productive upcoming year, and we'll fulfill much of our potential this coming year. Be well. Bye-bye.